Hi everyone and welcome to the French Watch Collector. Today on the bench we have a special watch and we are in for a treat because this watch has a lot of issue and a lot of little surprises inside. You can see it's a very old chronograph yeah, it's not working and yes, there is a lot of issue with this watch. So what we try to do in this video is we try to repair this old chronograph. You can see a hair inside the glass there. Try to wind the watch, but it's fully wound, but it doesn't start. The chronograph, it reset, but it doesn't start as well. See the movement is moving inside the case there. The hands are moving, so that's the good news already when we want to adjust the hour. But yeah, there is a lot of issue with this chronograph. Very old. You see the case, 18 karat gold, so that's quite nice. Fully gold case. The straps are very old. You see with like fixed bar. So we have this metal piece that bent on to attach the bracelet. Sorry, and yeah, I'm going to remove them. Obviously, not gonna reuse this old bracelet. That's a watch actually from somebody that sending me for a service. And yeah, he will put a new. And this one was stitched actually. It was stitched. The bracelet was stitched on the fixed bar there. Let's open the case and see what we find inside. Should have a chronograph movement, but let's see if we can see some issues straight away. Looks okay actually, like the movement doesn't look too bad. It's a Landeron 48, a very famous chronograph movement. See, has a big screw. Oh, look at it. Wow, that's not good. You can see the balance is moving like this. It means that the balance staff is broken. Wow, that's bad. That's bad news, yeah, because that's not the easiest way to do like the thing to do on a watch to fix the balance staff. Let's check the rest. Oh yeah, this yes, there is one spring that doesn't look original, but it's working. You see the mechanism start, stop, reset. So the chronograph mechanism is working. Gonna open the dial side and we change the crystal as well on the watch because it's quite scratched. And look at the hair underneath there. Dial is not too bad. The dial is in good condition. The hand is okay. The person didn't want me to touch a case, to polish a case or to redo the hand, so we leave it like this. Just remove the hairs there. Just gonna remove the hand now. Protect the dial. I'm using my Presto tool to remove the hands. Perfect. Just gonna remove the minute hand now from the chronograph using a pair of lever. Using my carbon tip tweezer, to remove the hand. Just gonna free now the caliber from the case by removing this screw case that maintain the movement inside the case. See a bit of rust there. The stem is not too bad. And now you see the caliber is coming from the front. Just pushing the two little pushers there from the chronograph mechanism. There we go, perfect. It's out of the case. Just gonna release the dial feed screw here. There is always two screws on this Landeron 48. Now I can remove this nice dial with a telemetre inside, so that you can know the distance, the sound, if you want. So it's the origin it was from ballistics. You know, when you were sending a missile, when you hear the sound, you can calculate how far away it went. So that's why they use a telemetre. It was like a military, obviously, a military option on the watch. But yeah, after it was used for a lot of things. Like for example, if you, it's quite handy as well if you have like a thunderstorm. If you hear thunder, you can start the chrono. If you see the thunder, you start the chronograph, and when you hear it, you know how many kilometers it is. Yeah, some nice feature to use it nowadays. Obviously, much better than sending some bombs on people. But yeah, that's a function of a telemetre on a chronograph dial. Oh yeah, you see the balance is broken. It looks like it's rusty, yeah? And probably the rust, obviously weakened the metal, and he broke like the balance stuff. So we'll have to change the balance stuff. Now I'm disassembling the chronograph mechanism, removing the spring first on the mechanism just to release the tension between the parts. And on chronograph mechanism, I'll always put back the screws because there are very subtle differences between each screws, and you don't want to mix them. So I just place them back on the main plate. I have the chronograph bridge there, which is keeping in place the chronograph center wheel, if you want, for the second of the chronograph, and the minute wheel. Yeah, it looks good so far. Another big spring there that come on a cam. So this is a chronograph mechanism which is operated with a cam and not a column wheel. So like I said, the Landeron 48 is a very, very famous chronograph mechanism. Like the Venus 180, 188, they made many iteration of these calibers. They produce a lot of them, so you can find a lot of parts online. And obviously before it was like before quartz watch. Obviously now you will have a lot of chronograph which are equipped with quartz, but that was the cheap mechanism, if you want, like the good value mechanism, or one of the good value. So it was mass produced. You see no fancy decoration on it or anything fancy. It was just straight to the point, and a very good value for money at the time, and still today, because these mechanisms, they are quite nice. They are quite solid. So if you maintain them properly, and you see this one is in pretty rough shape, you will see, and we did not see everything yet. Look, we start to see some rust. Well, that's not a good sign. But yeah, if they are maintained properly, they will run very well for a long time. Just checking if there is any play there. It was not bad actually on this model. There was not too much play in the barrel assembly. Removing the chronograph driving wheel there with a Presto tool, just to lift it straight up, because you see it's on this extended pivot there from the second wheel. Ooh, look at the rust on the screw. That's not good at all. That's not a good sign. So there was definitely some water in this watch. Just gonna lift this 3/4 bridge. Oh my god. Wow, that's not nice. Oh yeah, there is a lot of rock there. Let's see if we can manage to look at the amount of rust there on the ratchet wheel. Removing train of wheel, some of the train of wheel. And yeah, that's not good, yeah. It looks like it's not too deep, but let's see if we manage to save the parts, because you want to maintain all the calibers as original as possible. We have the barrel assemblies that we'll disassemble later. And this small bridge where we have a couple of wheels underneath. Just gonna lift it up very gently there with this plastic tool, just to make sure I don't scratch anything. And you see this extended pivot there, so we need to lift it up very straight. There we go, perfect. It's out. Okay, taking the last two wheels and escape the last one. We moved on the dial side and on the keyless work, and you see the rust there. That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's pretty bad. The minute wheel. We have the yoke with the spring. You see the strong spring there, so you need to be really careful when you remove it. You see the surface, like the rust on the surface under the dial there on the top of this plate. Releasing the screw there for the setting lever, and wow, look at the rust again underneath. Okay, so we have some work to do on this mechanism, yeah? Just removing there the jewel where we have the balance wheel. So now I'm gonna, with a piece of pig wood, I'm gonna clean all the jewels. I'm gonna rub as well and try to get rid of as much of the rust that I can on the movement. Yeah, because this is a lot of rust. So gonna do the same thing on all the jewels from all the different bridges. And we still have these parts to disassemble. Look at the rust on the crown wheel there. Okay, so we remove the parts. We'll have still the click spring. Just remove the click there. I will leave the spring in place. Don't really need to dismantle it, and move to the barrel assembly. And you see the rust there on the barrel. That's not good because actually the barrel needs to slide inside this barrel assembly, and the rust, obviously, that's not good because it will create a lot of friction. And you see it's pretty tricky to remove it. There we go, perfect. Wow, look at the rust as well on the barrel arbor there. Okay, I'm gonna remove the spring now, and we're gonna put a new spring anyway because this watch, even if this spring doesn't look that old, yeah, it's not an old spring when you see the shape and the color. I'm gonna polish a pivot from all the wheels with some E-Flex there again to remove any rust or anything on the surface. Just make sure we have a sharp and smooth surface on a pivot point. Cleaning the jewel. And you see with peg wood, I'm gonna rub as much rust as I can on all the parts. That's a lot of rust. And what I like to do when the parts are rusty that much, I like to put some of the parts in ultrasonic machine. Again, just to make the rust as loose as possible and remove like the biggest amount of rust. And you see on this part, like, look at the rust. But it's coming off pretty nicely, yeah. So you need a lot of patience there to clean everything. And like I said, yeah, I like to clean the parts like in ultrasonic first. Do another clean. You will see later I will rub the parts again. And last I will do like the cleaning in my cleaning machine to finish to clean the parts. So you see I put them in a basket there, and they will go for a short time in the ultrasonic machine. And I will just use this tool with like a brass brush, so very soft metal, just to brush and remove the last pieces of rust that are on these parts. You can see on the bench here. And there I will put all the parts in the cleaning machine. It's coming off quite nicely, actually, the rust on the parts. There we go. And now I put all the parts again in the baskets, and they will go in the cleaning machine. Okay, so the cleaning, we do a first stage of cleaning, 2 stages of rinsing, and the last one we'll dry the parts when they are fully clean. And I would like to use the opportunity to tell you that I have a Patreon page where you can go and support the channel. You will find the link down below in the description of this video, and you can subscribe to one of the plans if you want to support me and support the channel. It would mean a lot to me. And I would like to thank Roger, Matt, Christian, David, Shelby, Jan, Christian, Courtney, Alan, David, Ted, Tony, Michael, Steven, John, Tim, and Gregory. These are my patrons. Thank you so much, guys, for supporting the channel. And if you want to join the group, I tell you, you have a link down below in the description. You can go there and go to my Patreon page and support the channel, and it will help me to keep me motivated and put better content for you guys on YouTube and on Patreon as well. So that's it. The parts are fully clean, fully rinsed, and now they just finished to dry. We're gonna start by doing the hardest job first. It's like, you remember, you see like the pivot point there is the balance staff, so really is broken. So we'll have to change the balance staff on the balance assembly. So we need to disassemble first the balance assembly by removing the balance wheel. Just gonna mark there to see where we'll have, you see this little stud there where we have the hairspring. Just gonna remove the hairspring there with a pair of lever there just to lift it. Yeah, that's it. So free up the collet there. I'm gonna remove the impulse jewel. For this, there is a special tool there because it's friction mounted on a balance staff. And now I'm just gonna press on it and it will lift it up. You see there. Oh, there we go. That's it. Perfect. So that, put it away. And I'm just gonna tap to remove the broken balance staff on a balance wheel. And now that's a new balance staff. Just gonna press on it just to make sure it's the balance wheel sitting flat. And now I'm riveting with a round punch. I'm riveting the new balance staff on the balance wheel. And now with a flat punch, I will flat it down. And the new balance staff is ready and installed. I can put back the impulse jewel. Again, we're gonna press it in position. Perfect. Just checking, like doing the balancing of the balance wheel. So for this, I'm just gonna blow some air and you will see the balance is gonna turn. And if there is an heavy point on the balance, it will start to oscillate back and forth, and you see there, back, forth, until it comes to a full stop. So this means that there is an heavy point on the balance and you want to have the weight around the balance wheel to be equal on all sides. So there, I'm gonna lift up the balance straight up. It means that the heavy point is at the bottom there of the balance wheel, obviously. And with a file, I'm just going to just remove a tiny bit of metal at the time. And I'm going to do this several times. So you see there, I'm going to put it back on this tool there to check. And you see there, it's balancing again. So I'm going to do the same thing. Lift it up straight up. Just file a tiny piece of metal until we reach a balance wheel which is fully balanced. And when it's fully balanced, it will come to a stop. It doesn't rock anymore. You see there, it's turning, and stop. It doesn't balance anymore. So it means that it's fully balanced. So we can install the hairspring again. That's where we did the mark to remember in which position it goes. And that's it. So we can carry on the assembly. Putting a new mainspring. In the mainspring assembly there. So we want to make sure we have full power on a watch. And we didn't know the history, so safer to put a new mainspring there. And you see I just polished as well the barrel arbor that was very rusty. So now it's fully polished. So again, to reduce the friction to a minimum in a watch, because if you have friction, you will lose power, and if you lose power, you will lose accuracy if you want on your watch. So that's very important that, you have minimum friction on your watch. So that's why as well, we're gonna oil all the different points which are in contact metal against metal. There we go. Now you see me putting some oil there. Again, in these parts which are in contact metal against metal. So first what we're going to do, we're going to assemble the base mechanism. That's what I do always on Chronograph. I assemble the base mechanism that keeps the time. And after we'll assemble the complication, which is a chronograph. So there you see me putting the train of wheel. And I need to put this wheel before I put the center wheel in position. Just need to align them on the pivot points, on the little rubies, which are all these like pink, violet parts on the plate. And now we need to do the same thing. We need to align the top pivot with the jewels on top there. So moving very gently until it aligns in a hole. There we go, that looks good. And when it's done, we secure it with the screws. And you see the difference, how much cleaner the movement look after a good cleaning with a special product, obviously, for cleaning watch parts. And we try to save as many parts. And you remember, like under this bridge, like the amount of rust that was there, and look how much cleaner it looks. And we try to save, like I said, we saved all the parts. Because that's what I like to do. Like, I don't want to change parts. I want to keep it as original as possible, if it's possible. And yeah, now there we go. That's very important to put the oil. Again, that's all the different points are trying contact metal against metal. Still like very tiny bit of rust on this part, but like that's not bad actually. And the dark is, yeah, the metal obviously is a bit marked by the rust, but the rust is gone. And now I can put this 3/4 plate on top there. Again, we need to align everything. And we can put the screws. Okay, so now I'm gonna lubricate a few points there for the train of wheel, the mainspring assembly, all the pivot point for the wheels which are in a train of wheel. See me there. Use different oil. That's the red one is a 9104, so like a medium viscosity oil. And after I will use some 9010 here, there on the other wheel. And now we move on a keyless work. See me putting some blue grease. That's high viscosity grease, because this part will see a lot of strength, a lot of force between each other. So you want to use something a bit heavier for the part to move smoothly, and as well to prevent the wear on these parts. Oh, you see this screw there? It's coming out. That's not good, because it will prevent the setting lever from moving. And I forgot to put, when I was on this 3/4 bridge, I forgot to put this screw there. So I had to remove it. And you see the screw there? One is short, one is long. And actually I put a long one where the short one needed to go. You see there where we are close to the winding stem, you need to put a short one, so to make sure it doesn't go through the other side. And the long one go there on the other side. And you see now the screw, it's not coming out anymore. And the winding and the setting lever, sorry, can go on top of it without touching the screw. Okay, so now I'm just screwing the setting lever in position. Oiling all the pivot point. Greasing there on the clutch. And we can carry on. So this part of the mechanism, the keyless work, that's a part that will be used to change when you pull on the crown, to change from a winding mode to a time setting mode. That's what these parts are doing, to send the rotation of the crown to different part of the watch. One part you will send it to the crown wheel and the ratchet wheel to wind your watch. And if you turn it to pull on a crown and turn it to set the time, obviously we'll pass the information through a few wheels, like for example this intermediate and minute wheel, to change the time, to be able to set the time. So that's what this part of the mechanism is doing. That's its job. And just putting this part on top there, the setting lever spring. Because yeah, this is a spring, and that will create the tension. You see when you pull on a crown, where you have the different position. There we go. That's working perfectly. putting the pallet fork there. And again, we'll have to align it with this pallet fork cock on top there. You see, very gently, I'm going to move until, there we go. You see the pivot point that went through the jewel? That means it's aligned, and I can tighten it with the screw. Gonna put a bit of wine and oil the jewels from the pallet fork off camera under the microscope, because it's quite tricky to do. And now we can place the balance and see if the movement will run again, because you remember this one was not running at all. It was broken. He has few issues, a lot of rust, broken balance staff. Oh, he wanted to go there. I see it moving. Just very gently put it in position. Yes, perfect. It's running. Yeah, nice. Put the screw there, but I saw another issue. You see the hairspring there? It's not perfectly round. Like you see the gap between the different circles at the end is not correct. So under the microscope here, you see I'm gonna just slightly bend it to make sure we have the same gap between each round of the spring. Yeah, it looks better, and there is still a little gap at the end there. So again, I'm just gonna grab with a tweezer and just gonna bend it very gently. Bit more. Yes, that looks good. Perfect. And the end, you see the end, the stuff like the post there is not perfectly straight up. And this will create an angle. So I'm just gonna twist it to put it straight up. A tiny bit more. Yeah, it looks better. Okay, and now I'm gonna put it on a watch, because you see if this spring is not perfectly flat and it's not perfectly concentric in between each circle, it will not keep the time very accurately as well. So that's why you want it to have it perfect. And we're gonna put it back in the watch. And yeah, it's starting, picking up some speed, perfect. So now the base movement is working. Gonna focus on a chronograph and assemble the complication. So you will see me oiling a lot of parts, and you see these screws as well. They will have a flat parts, and they are used at pivot points for like a lot of parts. That's a cam, and you see on this one the cam is integrated. It's a huge cam with 2 screws there. We have the chronograph center wheel, just lubricate before putting it, and the minute wheel now, putting in position. If you want to cooperate and go. Oh, yeah, I just need to move the cam there. Here we go, perfect, it's in position. I lubricated the heart-shaped cam, which is on top of the chronograph wheels. That's the part that will be used to reset the chronograph to 0. So yeah, you just want to make sure it's nicely lubricated. And I put this chronograph bridge with the 2 jewels on top. But I forgot to put this spring there, so I had to remove everything. And this spring goes under the chronograph wheel to put a little bit of friction on the chronograph wheel to make sure like the second of the chronograph doesn't jump. It's like it's smooth. Because you will have some play, you will see later on, like in between some teeth of the chronograph mechanism, you will have a tiny bit of play, and you don't want like this second end to jump, so you want to have a tiny bit of friction, and that's the job of these springs that go under the chronograph there, that chronograph wheel that I'm putting. Just now I need to center the wheels in the jewels. Yeah, that looks not in place yet. There we go. Secure it with a screw. Gonna lubricate like a lot of parts of the cam, because the cam, if you want, is like the brain of the chronograph. That's why these parts will keep in sync, like all the different parts that there is on a chronograph mechanism, to start, stop, and reset, obviously. This is like a lever that will be connected to the pusher. When you push on a chronograph to start, stop, and reset, you will see this will connect to the cam that I just talked about earlier. Lubricating this screw there that's used at pivot point. That's the other lever if you want, like for the chronograph, for the second pusher on the chronograph. You see you have 3 threads there on this screw, so it means it's reverse threaded. So you screw it and unscrew it the opposite way, what you would do normally. So that you need to be really careful when you see 3 lines on the screw. Now we are this cam spring there. I'm gonna put it in place and I'm gonna arm like on a cam. And you see there when I'm pushing the pusher there. Tack, you see the cam moving. Again, start to install the spring that will put the tension in the chronograph mechanism and give the tension as well on the pushers. I love this vintage chronograph mechanism because they are quite simple. Like if you compare to a modern chronograph mechanism, very simple and very nice. And like I said, if they are maintained properly, they will run for a very, very long time. And they're actually quite good quality. And you can find quite a lot of parts for this Landeron 48 mechanism, because they were mass produced, so there is still a lot of parts out there, and people making as well brand new parts for this mechanism. So yes, that's quite nice. I really like to work on this vintage chronograph mechanism. Okay, so now I put the clutch and now I'm putting the spring that will keep this clutch under tension. Another spring there, that's for the minute wheel. For the minute wheel to do a nice jump when it comes to which pass each minute on a chronograph. And I'm gonna put the chronograph driving wheel friction mounted there, so you see I press it in position. Need to be the same height as this wheel, which is on the clutch. And you can see there's the teeth which are engaging. They need to engage around 2/3 between each other. Like on a big part is fine, but you see on the small teeth, it was like a quarter maybe. So now I'm adjusting it until with some screws and you see that now it's much better there. It's like, yeah, 2/3 of the teeth, the small teeth is engaging with the big one. So that's how you want to adjust it on this chronograph mechanism. Just gonna tweak the bit error, because when I put it on a time grapher just to check very quickly, I see the bit error was off by a lot. And this bit error is adjusted manually. If you want, you need to disassemble the balance assembly. And you do it this way. So with a screwdriver blade, I'm just going to twist this collet there. And you will see the stud move ever so slightly. There we go. You see now it's just moving. That's it. That's how you adjust the bit error on this watch. And you do it, I like to have it below 1 millisecond on this type of caliber when it's adjusted manually. Gonna clean all the parts in the ultrasonic machine, and I put a link down below in the description for the ultrasonic machine that I used, and as well a 5% discount if you want to use. It's a very nice cleaning machine, not very expensive, but it does the job very well if you want to do watchmaking. So I put a link down below in the description with a 5% discount if you want to buy the same ultrasonic machine. I'm putting the pusher there. Now that everything is working on the chronograph mechanism, gonna put the hour wheel. Placing back the dial. I did not touch, like I said, I did not do anything with the case, the dial or the hand. The owner wanted to keep it looking original, but obviously we had a lot of work on the movement with all the parts which were broken, rusted and everything. So now I'm gonna install the hour hand. Just gonna align it to 12 o'clock and do the same thing with the minute hand there. Gonna align it. And press it in position. Just checking the alignment when it's at 6 o'clock. Yeah, it looks good, perfect. Putting the chronograph second hand. So obviously we reset the chronograph to put it at the 0 position and press the second hand align at 12 o'clock. This is a running second hand, so that's the second hand from the time, which always run on a chronograph. It doesn't stop like the second from the chronograph. Just press it in position. And that's a minute hand for the chronograph, so we're gonna align it to the 0 position and press it. Perfect. I'm gonna check if the chronograph is working. So now we started. And yeah, you can see every time the second hand, we see the minute ticking. And when I put the hand, what I want to check if when we reset the chronograph, does the hand go back to 0 position? So that's what we're gonna check right now. Stop the chrono and reset it. Yeah, perfect. The second and minute hand bang on a 0 position. Very nicely set up. So we can put it back in the case. Always tricky to put this movement there because we have these pushers. I need to go through the case and you install them from the front. I'm just going to use a pair of tweezers there just to move ever so slightly the pusher to align it in front of the hole. These square or rectangle pushers. Perfect. In position. I'm gonna put now the crown with the setting with the winding stem. Put a brand new crystal there. Looks much nicer. And look at this beautiful chronograph movement. So nice, beating very nicely. And with this fully 18 karat gold case, closing everything. Gonna demagnify before we see on a time grapher which type of result we are getting. And I would like to use the opportunity to tell you that I have my own website where I'm selling some of the watch that I restored on the channel. And you can find as well some history about the channel if you want to know more a bit about myself. And as well, like for example, this watch, if you want to send me your vintage watch for a service or not vintage watch as well, I will be more than happy to fix your watch. So yeah, you can find a link down below in the description about my website. Okay, so now I'm putting the watch on a time grapher and I'm adjusting it, and you can see there the amplitude is very high, 340, that's very good. bit error of 0.1, and you see now that it's adjusted, is turning around few seconds around zero, like it's gaining or losing few seconds a day when it's fully adjusted. That's very nice for this at the beginning broken old watch. And you can see there chronograph. I love the chronograph complication. Look how beautiful it is on his vintage watch in his magnificent gold case. So I hope you like this restoration. That was a lot of work, and I will see you next time for my next project. Bye bye.